Hi everyone, my name is Tim. I'm Senior Application Specialist at HRsoft. In today's webinar, we will have a look at property combinations and why we love them. With me today, my wingman and HR Sales Manager, Francois Simon, who will answer your questions. You can use the chat box on the GoToWebinar panel. I'm going to make room after the session for more questions so that you follow this presentation better. We expect the webinar to take somewhere in the range of 20 minutes. And as always, the webinar is being recorded and made available online later on. Okay, let's get started. So today I will cover these topics. I have simple file naming using a bit of formatting in the combination. Then I'm going to use drop list in combination, and actually it's a key list which we already covered in one of our previous webinars. Combine and use the configuration name in drawing file name. A combination property where we include specific folder to the file name to further drive the location of the file. And then finally show how to write material dimension to your properties. These can be used, for instance, in drawing or ordering purposes or wherever you can use them. And then I have two small additional tricks not shown in this slide, but let's have a look. And just a reminder, we are recording this webinar, so don't panic. I will move steadily along and maybe we can even share this profile with all of you after the webinar. If you want it, you can just leave a message in the chat box for Francois and we will make sure to send it to you after this webinar. Okay, let's get started. So in SolidWorks, I'm going to create a new simple part and I'm just going to use the same template throughout this webinar. So the first I want to show is how to name a file. And I trimmed down this only to focus on combinations for this webinar. As you can see right now, the file name is not resolved. And this is because I'm using a combination to retrieve that file name. So I need to expand this group and then create whatever I need for the file name. And right now I'm returning the value, which is today's date. And when I add a sequence number to that, the combination for the file name is then resolved and we get 160127. Now the 16 actually comes from this one. So we are trimming away part of this value to use in our combination for the file name. So if I save that one, it will go into my eDesign folder and I can just hit save. So let's just pause here for a second and go back to PowerPoint. To understand combinations, I want to show you a few screenshots. As I said, you can request the profile from us to tamper with it on your own to learn the small tricks used in the webinar. But let's have a look. I made a combination in this case where I pull in the date and sequence properties. I really don't need the entire date, and this is why you see the -8 in this window. The -8 will remove the first 8 characters from that property. This is done by selecting the property and then use the option pop-up to modify this single property. So in this case, I have highlighted this group and then go in and select remove the 8 first characters. I could also have selected only to show the trailing 2 characters if I preferred that. That would have done the same for me. And notice, by the way, that there are 2 more options in the bottom of this dialog. The first one, hidden behind this one, is called Show Preceding Separator for Empty Field. And this is going to remove the character before the unresolved property. And this I have used in the configuration specific drawing settings that you will see in a few minutes. The other one is generate only when all properties have a value. And this is brilliant when using or else in the combination, because then we can ensure that a value is not resolved unless we want it to be. And I'll get into that in 2 slides. If you use the arrow next to the combination string, you get options to use project properties. These are explained pretty detailed in the managing projects webinar, which can be found on our webpage. But there's also an option to remove characters from left or right of the entire string. And this can be used to combine properties in all kinds of way. You can further trim the output. So it's not commonly used, but if you are a really crazy engineer, we even got you covered. As promised, looking at the file name combination, as you can see here, and this is the format string, I used the or else. Or else is really good to solve situations where you can have multiple results for a given property. Custom tools will try to resolve them in sequence, and as soon as we find a property that we can resolve, that is what we return into the variable. You can also select to resolve standard SolidWorks properties. In this example, I have a property called yes, and the format string will return the configuration name. But you can also have plain text if that's needed, so we pretty much got you covered. And this was a bit technical, and the short version is you can do almost anything with combination. So let's get back in SolidWorks and see all of this live. So I'm going to close that one and make a new part. So this time I'm going to use a different combination for that. This time I'm going to use a drop list where I can select from part or assembly. Now I'm not resolving anything yet because I have the setting defined only to resolve a property or a combination when all properties have a value. So right now there is nothing resolved in this case. When I retrieve a sequence code, I then get P for the part. If I select assembly in this one, I get A. And this is a key value list. So basically you can have a look at our earlier recordings and see how to do that. But this will save the file with that file name. If I want to do it a bit more complex, I can use a project. So it's not a real project, it's like a key list again. So here I have 3 projects defined, a 1000, 2000 and a 3000 project. And I'm going to show you this one. I could really just hide that in the user interface, but for this webinar it makes sense to have it. So when I select the 1000 project, I return this value. So that's combination \1000 \. And if I select a sequence to that, I then get this as my file name. And this is a bit of a hack, you could say, because now I'm actually calling the file combinations \1000 and then 0128 and then SLDPRT for this case. So if I don't have any folders called that, then I'm going to create them. So I'm going to hit OK. And as you can see, we go into E design combinations 1000, and I can save the file into that location. Pretty nice. So let's have a look at the next one. In this case, I want to create different file names for my drawings based on the configuration. So if I just go back here for a second, you can see that this part actually has quite a few configurations available. And I want to have one drawing per configuration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set, a sequence. And for this case, the sequence is all I need. I don't want to have a more complex file name. So already now the file name is resolved. And now I can select that this is a configuration specific drawing. As soon as I do that, I return the configuration and add that with a combination to my file name. So we have the sequence and the configuration name. When I hit OK, it's going to save the file. And while it's doing that, it's going to add the properties to the other configurations. And now I can make a drawing for that. just insert 3 views, maybe add some dimension to that, like so. And then if I select the view, you can see that this is the default view, the 150. So when I save this file, the drawing number should reflect that, and also the file name, of course. So I'm going to save this file now. And then my drawing is saved with the configuration name appended onto it. So really nice. There is one thing that I want to have a look at as well. Actually, let me do one more drawing because I want to show you this. Let me go in here and create a new drawing just to show you how easy it is, because we already have the properties defined for our files now. So if I'm going to select to insert a new file, maybe the current view of that one, and then select 300. When I'm going to save that one, it will get the 300 file name because we are using the configuration specific in our file name. Okay, back to this one. The material definition is set as not defined, and maybe I want to resolve that somehow. So if I look at my part file, this is the 150, so I'm going to open my properties again, and as you can see in here, we have the dimension type set as not set, and not set will return not defined, as we had on the drawing. But this actually is a flat bar. It's 50 by 16 and then cut at 150 millimeters. So I'm going to select a flat bar. The flat bar, I have decided I need to have long side, thickness, and then cut length. So I'm going to pick the long side, and this makes no sense, but this is my long side, and my thickness is that dimension there, and the cut length is then this one. This will resolve the dimension into FLT 50 times 16 and so on. So I'm going to hit OK, find the drawing for that one, and that would update the property. Yeah. Make a new file. Actually, not that one. Let me do a different one. I have a new file here, a new template file. So in this case, I'm going to push the limits a bit on the combinations. But you can do, as I said, basically anything, basically. Now, the idea behind this is I'm going to create all kinds of cans, and these cans all need to have a label on it. And I don't want to calculate the label. I just want to add that as a value onto my drawing or whoever is going to create the label. So for this one, I'm going to measure from that circle. If I can. I cannot, but it's 85 anyway. So I'm going to select the height of 75. And then I want to add in the label dimension. And this is where it's getting really nice with combinations, because you can use a dimension and then just find the one you need, in this case the diameter of the can, and that would then calculate the label requirement in this case. So I'm going to do like this. Now we all know how to calculate a circle, but anyway, 66 times 22/7, that is 207.42, but that's not the value I have here. Well, that's because I actually add 3 millimeters as an overlap for my label, and then I'm going to use the trim away option to trim away the trailing values. I don't want to have comma 428 or anything. I just want a clean value. So this can be done as well using combinations. Now let me save this can into a magic folder. So I'm going to select a sequence now. The sequence is 0130. When I add that, I resolve a combination called folder magic slash, and this is in the thousands because we are in the 0 to 999, and then we get a folder in the hundreds to 200 because it's 130. So if this value was changed into maybe 5,000, we would put this file into the 5,000 to 5,999 range in the 100 to 199 range. Unless I change that one to 5, then it would be in the 500 to 599 range. So if I hit OK, the file is saved into my magic folder, and that's it. That is actually all we had to show today, and you can start typing in questions now and we will answer them. For those of you leaving, I'd like to thank you for attending this webinar, and we hope to see all of you for the next one scheduled at 12th of May, same time as today. We will have a look at design reuse with custom tools copy. I'm now going to stop the recording and cover the questions. Thank you and have a nice day.